Hello, my name is Marion Dorflinger, and if I could ask you to listen and you would say yes, it would mean a lot to me because I want to talk to you about the Lunatic Fringe because this is the time that we all need to really understand what the Lunatic Fringe is and what happens when you get there. And I can talk to you in a way that doesn't insult you or piss you off or make it look like you're stupid. And anybody can do this, but very few people do. Uh, the Lunatic Fringe has become a cheap throwaway thing that usually it's politicians or political people who are talking politics. Anything they don't like, they just say that's Lunatic Fringe, and it's like an automatic thing that if I say that, there are certain people that will like me better. It's just a word that I can throw out, and automatically I am winning in the polls over who I'm talking to. And there's lots of words. Socialism is one of those words. Fascism. There's lots of words that you just say the word, and you get support from your base just for saying the word. Okay, and that's called conditioned response. They're the slobbering dog. You ring the bell, they slobber. And that is an insult to your base. If you pull that and they give their support to you just because you said that word, you're insulting them, and they will figure it out, and they'll know that you're not really the guy they wish they had voted for. And I don't care what nation you live in or what party. It's the same way all over the world in politics. And it would be the same way all over the world in any school, but politics is where they do it. But I have studied the Lunatic Fringe, and I've been to the Lunatic Fringe. I haven't been there in my mind. I have gone and visited the people at the extreme Lunatic Fringe, not only on the left and the right, but on all points of the compass. And it does not matter. It doesn't matter whether it's fringe right, fringe left, any point on the compass. When you get to the Lunatic Fringe, everything dies. And it is not a stupid psychological trick that I'm playing on you. It is a true fact of life. Everything dies at the Lunatic Fringe. Now, I will go on with that in a moment, but before that, I want to introduce you to a wonderful concept that I've only seen written in one other place, and I've never heard anybody else use it, and I love it. And I don't know why this concept isn't circulating widely, but I'm gonna hold it up on a piece of paper. And I really hope that you remember what the words you're about to read, and they're gonna go backwards again. You can look at a mirror and read things back. You can do this because I failed, and I'm sorry I didn't write the right way. But here we go. Yes, that does say the ocean of thought. And that was written in a beautiful book. I don't remember the name. The title was sounding. I don't know the author. But it was a book of fiction written from the point of view of a sperm whale swimming in the ocean, thinking about humanity and how close humanity had driven them to extinction, and the blue whale and like the whale is swimming through the ocean and thinking, and the author uses the ocean of thought because it's like everything that swims in the ocean and thinks. You don't have to speak. Your thoughts are out there in the ocean. And if I talk about the Lunatic Fringe and nobody ever sees this, I have introduced that thought into the ocean of thought. And somebody else is gonna think or talk about it in a way that is respectful, that makes us all understand the danger of the Lunatic Fringe in any direction. And the guy who made that term popular was a man himself who had gone to the Lunatic Fringe and started the second longest war in U.S. history. And it was the war where concentration camps were introduced to the world. And we are the country that introduced the concentration camp, at least as far as back in history as I can read. That didn't start with Hitler. That started with Roosevelt. It started with the war Roosevelt helped start, the Spanish-American War. And he's real popular for the charge up, the hill. I think called San Juan Hill. It won him the vice presidency, and McKinley he became the president, and his face is on Mount Rushmore. But he went to the Lunatic Fringe and started a terrible war that we committed war crimes. We imprisoned almost all the people of the Philippine Islands who were only fighting to have their independence. And we had acquired their property as a settlement in the Spanish-American War. We just walked in and said, okay, the Spanish don't own this, we own this. You are our colony. And they said, we want to be an independent republic. We fought a war, and the best estimate is that we killed 1 million on that little island nation, and we interred almost the whole population in concentration camps. And that's how the word boondocks was introduced to the English language, because when the military imprisoned almost all the inhabitants in concentration camps, they used the word boondocks, which is a Filipino word for mountain, to indicate all the land outside the concentration camps is the boondocks. So that's the history lesson about a lunatic fringe movement and what it did, and the guy who popularized it started that, and his name is Teddy Roosevelt, and he loved to use the word lunatic fringe. People almost he won't shut up. And this is one of his most famous quotes. And he sounds so erudite and wise, and he did do some good things later, but he also committed atrocities, and we all have to be honest about who we are. We are all a mix of good and evil, and Teddy Roosevelt really went to the fringe on that one. So here we go. Teddy Roosevelt speaking on the lunatic fringe. Among the wise and high-minded people in self-respecting fashion strive earnestly for peace. There are foolish fanatics always to be found in such a movement, and always discrediting it. The men who form the lunatic fringe in all reform movements. That really is the way to say it. Sorry, Teddy Roosevelt was a guy who said it so well, but he did. And you give credit to the author. If he said it right, it doesn't matter what he did. If what he said is true, it's not a sin to quote the guy. Bar none. Anybody that you hate in history who says something true, it's okay to quote that guy. And you don't need to be called an asshole for quoting somebody terrible who said something that was true. And that's, but anyway. So, he said reform movement, any movement, any group, if there is an extreme minority in any group, they call that the lunatic fringe. But that is not true. Because you can be the minority and want peace. I mean, you could have been the minority in Germany and told Hitler and the Nazi Party, we don't want to do this. We lobby for peace. And they would have called you the lunatic fringe and they'd have killed you, but you were not the lunatic fringe. All the Nazis were. So that definition is not good. They're not always a small minority. Sometimes they're the majority, and sometimes they're the whole people, the whole movement. It's the lunatic fringe. So there's a difference between the dictionary definition and what really happens when you go out there and meet those people. So I will tell you how I met the lunatic fringe in Christianity on the far right and the far left. So the far right of the lunatic fringe, where everything dies, is Jimmy Jones, and he's known for the Kool-Aid. If you don't know the history, he grew up in the Church of the Nazarene, the same church I grew up in. The mother of my ex-wife went to the same church he did. she knew him. They started their religious life in the Church of the Nazarene, and I did too. And that is on the way to the Lunatic Fringe. And if you really want to have a long talk about the Church of the Nazarene, I can tell you. And there are probably Nazarenes who won't like me for saying this, but I can tell you what happens if you seek salvation in that religion, unless they've changed the religion. But when I was there, it was very much on the way to the Lunatic Fringe, not that far. So, Jimmy Jones left the far right Christian religion of the Church of Nazarene, and he went to the Lunatic Fringe, and he started his new thing down in South America, maybe Honduras, and he bought some land and started his own thing. And there was a senator in California that heard something bad was happening, and he flew down, and he wound up getting murdered. And Jimmy Jones had rehearsed mass suicide. They had forced the congregation at gunpoint. They surrounded them with gunpoint guns and crossbows, and conditioned them, go through the line, drink the Kool-Aid, go through the line, drink the Kool-Aid. And the last time they put cyanide in it, and I think something like 1,000 people died. I mean, mothers would put the Kool-Aid in their baby's mouth, and when the baby was dead, they drink it. And when they went down there, they thought there were 500 victims, and when they uncovered them, they found there were 1,000 because the mothers and fathers had died on top of the children. So that's what happens at the Lunatic Fringe when you go right. Now, when you go left at the Lunatic Fringe, and I've had this conversation there too. There was a mother in that religion on the Lunatic Fringe who said, I was talking about a really bad guy, and I said, that guy could rape your daughter, and she said, if she gets raped, she'll learn her lesson. He's a good person. We're all good people. You can't be angry at anybody. He just wants to make her happy, and if she gets raped, he didn't mean it that way, and she'll learn her lesson. So that's pretty close to the Lunatic Fringe on the left, but it's not quite all the way. If you go all the way, then you have submission to slavery. I know that you don't want to talk about critical race theory and Black Lives Matter and all of that anymore, and we won't, and we'll stop talking about it when the Civil War is over, because it's not over. But I will talk about it because it's a good example. One way that the plantation owners kept their slaves working on the plantation was to teach them the Christian religion, and that the Christian religion, and it's written in the book of Philemon. Paul is writing a letter to a guy named Philemon about a runaway slave. And he converted to Christianity under Paul, and Paul said, you have to go back to your master because you belong to him. You're his property. You have to submit to your master. That's God's will. And that really is in the Bible. I mean, he wrote the letter and said, I'm sending him back to you. I hope you set him free, but he's your property, and I'm asking you to do it, but you don't have to do it. And he has to submit to your see, that is in the Bible. And the plantation owners preached that to their slaves, and I don't say they bought it, but they used it to justify their submission, and through all kinds of ways, a lot of slaves submitted their whole lives and died in slavery. A lot of them rebelled, and there were terrible, terrible slave uprisings, and they tried to run away. And there's so many terrible things that people don't want to talk about that happened in the South, and they just don't want to talk about it because it did happen, but they don't want to talk about it. But it's not about politics. It's about everything, politics and everything. When you get to the fringe left, when you get to the Lunatic Fringe on the left in this religion, you submit to slavery. They can rape your daughter. You will submit to them. If they want to kill you, you let them kill you. So everything dies at the Lunatic Fringe in every direction. That is where you go if you want to submit to slavery until you die. If you want to live in a world where everybody is a slave, that's the Lunatic Fringe on the left. if you want to live in a world where we all have a mass suicide or a genocide, world war that killed everybody, that's a lunatic fringe on the right. Um, Hitler and Stalin were both examples of the lunatic fringe. I don't think you can call it left or right or anything. They both set out to kill a people or a belief system. I mean, Hitler set out to exterminate the Jews, and Stalin set out to imprison people who did not embrace atheism. There were some people say that 80 million people died under Stalin, or under well, Stalin started it before communism ended in 50 years. There were something like 80 million people that died, concentration camps, things like that. So, and they set out to kill religion. They set out to basically kill anything that didn't believe in what they called communism. That wasn't really a socialist experiment. That's not. If you read the book that Marx wrote, that's not the society that Marx was talking about. But it's something that Stalin used to justify being an evil asshole. He went to lunatic fringe and he died in peace and in his sleep, which is strange. But Hitler and Stalin fought a terrible war with each other, and Stalin's a guy who really put the pressure on Churchill and Roosevelt, yeah, for the D-Day Normandy invasion. I mean, he said, "I really need you to put a lot of pressure on to the West, take the pressure off on the East, and help me win against Hitler." So there's a lot of lunatic fringe, weird stuff that happened on all sides. It really is. I mean, when it gets down to where we're talking about either killing or somebody else or yourself. I mean, I don't mean self-defense. I mean killing them because they don't agree, or committing suicide because you're told to commit suicide. You're on the fringe, okay? And it doesn't. It's left, it's right, and there are 360 degrees on the compass. In any direction, it dies everything dies at the lunatic fringe. So, and the reason it is important to talk about today is because there are a great many lunatic fringe majorities who are really pushing for bad things in this country and all over the world. I mean, we are at a. I really believe that the strangeness in human behavior right now is a virus, just the same as coronavirus and everything else. There is a virus of the mind that has hit a lot of the human race, enough of the human race to put us at critical mass. And on top of that, we have what's happening with the environment. So, I said we're living in a dangerous world the last time, and we are. But you need to talk calm when things are dangerous, and I'm talking to you calm. And I'm telling you that it doesn't matter what direction you're going. When you get to the lunatic fringe, everything dies. You die, the people you love die, the people you hate die, everything dies at the lunatic fringe. It does not matter your ideology. If you go that far, everything dies. So I enjoyed the talk, and this was a lot more serious than the last 3 or 4 I've done. You notice I didn't laugh. I didn't tell any jokes, and I did talk. I enjoyed it just the same, and it's important to me that I say this because it's out there now. It's in the ocean of thought, and if you listened, I thank you. And it doesn't matter if you think I'm right or wrong. It doesn't matter if you agree or disagree. All that matters is that you heard me talk about the lunatic fringe in a calm, respectful way, and that I introduced you to the concept of the ocean of thought. And now you can talk about it in this calm way and say anything you want to about it. You can say anything you want to about any issue in this calm way. And you can really understand the other person. You can go to the other person and live in his land and look out through his eyes. I mean, you can come from New York to rural Missouri and walk in the woods and sit at a kitchen table and have the people who live there say, this is why we need guns. and go back to New York and say, you know, if we really want gun control, there's a different way to talk about it. There's a better way, and we may not need as much as we think we do. We don't need to take it to the fringe. See, if you are in a dangerous situation and you can talk calm, you may die, but we're all going to die, and you may as well die like this. But people won't die scared like they will if you're screaming your head off. They might live, they might survive, they might do the right thing, but they'll understand that you told them something in a calm way, and they can do the same. And if you're in danger and you're calm, you can get out of it. If you're angry or you panic, you may not. You see, here's a principle when you feel fear. The moment you feel fear, go forward and take action as if you do not feel fear, and you will not feel the fear any longer. And that's true. That's true. I've been in situations where I could die any second if I could do the right thing. And I was in that situation 25 minutes one time, and I felt no fear, and I didn't think about anything. I just paid attention. I made the right move every time, or the right enough move that I survived. And it was only 25 minutes. Now, after it was over, I shook all over for days, and my adrenaline rushed, and I shook for days, you know, and people laughed when I talked about it, you know, and I don't mind at all. But I stayed calm for those 25 minutes, and I lived. And this is what you do in dangerous situations. This is what you do. This is how you talk to people. And we are all in a dangerous situation, and we've got to talk to each other like this, okay? You cannot post a post on any public place and say, our side looks like these superheroes and your side looks like these assholes in this cartoon, and you'll say, I know that whatever group they are don't like seeing this, but it's true. See, that's not how you talk to people in a dangerous situation if you don't want bad things to happen. You might do that for fun. You might piss them off for fun. You might think it's not working. It's not working. Nobody's going to win if you do that. It doesn't matter. You know, you can't talk to your enemy as if you do not respect your enemy. You cannot talk to your enemy as if you are not trying to understand your enemy. You can't talk to your friend that way either. Okay? You can, but you're not going to get the desired outcome unless the desired outcome is everything dies. And that is where it happens on the Lunatic Fringe, and everything dies at the Lunatic Fringe. Everything dies at the Lunatic Fringe, no matter which direction. So, this is what I believe to be true, every word. And this, The Ocean of Thought, was introduced to me in a work of fiction entitled Sounding, and it was about a whale swimming in the ocean. I don't remember the author. If you can find it, send word to me. If I can buy that used at a price I can afford, I will buy that book. Sounding, The Ocean of Thought. So that would be a favor to me. And this is how you talk about the Lunatic Fringe, where everything dies. It doesn't matter which direction you go. Everything dies at the Lunatic Fringe.